Welcome to the Sugar Daddy Podcast, where we help you build a clear financial plan so you can feel confident and in control of your money. If you are an OG, welcome back. So glad to have you. And if you're new here, we're so glad that you chose today to listen to our podcast. This is going to be a special little mini series. We just got back from almost a month in Europe. And we're going to tell you all about it. And we're going to tell you a little bit about how much we spent. We went to 4 different countries across 4 weeks as a family of 4. So let's get into it.
Sugar Daddy Podcast, yo. Learn how to make them pockets grow. Financial freedom's where we go. Smart investments, money flow.
Hey, babe. What are we talking about today?
Welcome back. We're back. That's what we're talking about. Honestly, how does it feel to be back?
I mean, pros and cons.
Womp womp.
We had a great trip, and I enjoyed, our trip. However, I am a creature of routine,
habit. Yeah.
and I do like some aspects of being back in my normal routine, of course.
Yeah. And obviously it was vacation and it wasn't normal life, but we did kind of go with the idea of like, what would it be like to live in Europe? Because it is something that we are considering. So we scoped out 4 different countries. We wanted to, get the vibes, see how the kids feel about it. And it was really honestly the perfect timing because I left my job in early March. I ended up signing with a new company before we left, so that was reassuring. And then we just got to frolic through Europe, which was amazing. And I've been working since I was like a wee little baby.
A baby,
Yeah, it feels like that. I literally started like babysitting when I was 11 years old.
which is weird.
I know. And could
Illegal
you
now.
imagine an
Illegal
11-year-old
now.
watching our kids?
No, I would never let an
And they were
11-year-old watch our
newborns.
child. I would never let
Yeah.
an 11-year-old watch our
No,
child.
it was crazy. It was different times, it was a different time. But all that to say, like, if you are an elder millennial like we are, if you are a firstborn daughter, if you are in those categories, like, you're tired. We are tired. And so it was amazing to honestly take a 3-month break, a little sabbatical. And, even when I started speaking to my now manager and I said, hey, I have this trip planned. I could work these hours or those hours. And she was like, what, do you want to? And I was like, well, no, but I wasn't going to assume that I could start a month later. And she was like, why don't you just start a month later? So it all worked out.
Yeah.
The stars aligned. And we did 4 weeks in Europe and I didn't have to work. And it was amazing.
Yes.
So we're going to get into, we didn't listen. This was a trip for us. This was a vacation. We did not detail every single dollar we spent. So we're going to give you like the bulk of what we spent on accommodations, what we spent at Disney, that kind of thing. But we're going to break it down for you.
Yeah, we were more or less like, as far as like flights, accommodations,
Yep.
and stuff like that, we were looking for, keeping within a certain budget. But like once we actually arrived there, kind of like some of the day-to-day spending, we weren't like nickel and diming.
No. And that's not how we typically, because if you guys have been here for long enough, I would rather not do something than to do it with restriction. So, we'll get into it, but we're going to do this in a little bit of a series and we're going to break down kind of country by country. So that way, hopefully you listen to all of it and the whole thing is interesting to you. But in case you're like, oh, I really wanted to do Paris Disney, you can go to the Paris Disney episode and figure out, what part is for you. So let's get into our first stop.
Barcelona, Spain.
Barcelona. Okay, so we flew from Raleigh directly. No, that's a lie. We flew from Raleigh to Boston to Barcelona. So we had
Yes.
one layover. I will say we booked these flights with miles. The reason we booked Barcelona, not because I didn't have an interest, but honestly, the whole premise of this, the way it started, and if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. But the reason this whole thing started was like, we didn't want to pay for 5 or 6 weeks of summer camp because I was like,
We're like, does it make sense to like the amount that we would spend, maybe add a little bit more on top of that and have
and all get a trip
Yeah.
and like, kind of trip of a lifetime and let the kids see the world and all the things. And so that's kind of how this whole thing started is, well, we don't want to pay for summer camp because that's a lot of money. So we wanted to get to Europe as inexpensively as possible. And so if you're new here, we do a lot of points and miles travel. And so I was looking for ways to get into Europe for the least amount of points possible. And about 9 months ago, I guess 10 months at this point, I found the flights to Barcelona for 30,000 points a person, which we just booked one way because obviously we ended up doing multiple countries. So 30,000 points a person felt like a steal, was a steal. I booked it and I was like, by the way, we're going to Barcelona. So Barcelona was our first stop. I had never been to Barcelona. Brandon had never been. And it was lovely. We absolutely loved it.
Yeah, we had a great time.
And the kids loved it. Like, even after everything, I was like, okay, like, which one was your favorite? And unprompted and, like, without recalling all the things we did, Barcelona consistently was their favorite.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was really great. So we flew into Barcelona, um, and we had an Airbnb in most places. Our Airbnb for Barcelona was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It had a kitchen, it had a little dining area, was on, I think, the 5th floor, had an elevator, had air conditioning. Like, there
All of them had air. All of our
Yes,
Airbnbs had air
there was
conditioning.
certain things I was like, we have to have air conditioning, we have to have Wi-Fi, and we wanted a washer. And so all of our Airbnbs had those things. And this was really great. Brandon's mom ended up coming with us on the entirety of the trip. And so she had her own room in Barcelona. The kids had single beds in one room. And what we did most days, or most places we went, is we bought at least breakfast items. So we would have, fruit, snacks, we would have bottled water, yogurt, things like that, so that we could wake up and get our day started before, like, heading out for the day. So we did grocery shop and we did want a kitchen in all of our locations.
And I would say with that, like in Barcelona, the groceries felt less expensive. I felt like we were
Yes.
definitely getting more bang for our buck.
I agree. I agree. And when we went and bought groceries, a lot of things we bought because, yes, we know that we like Greek yogurt. These are the fruits that we like, but we also, part of being on these trips is like exploring. And so we did buy snacks that we've never seen before, and we did try foods that we maybe haven't tried before. And so, sometimes it was a hit, sometimes it was a miss, but I think that's part of the experience. And we did not limit ourselves in what we spent at the grocery store.
Yeah, and reality too is that like if we were home and not on this trip, we would be spending money at the grocery store anyways. So
Exactly.
that was kind of like, an apples to apples in a sense, as far as from the spending standpoint. But I definitely noticed immediately, like the first time we went out and bought groceries, I was like looking at things like, for example, just looking like things that like people
Fruit,
might buy here, like fruit,
meat.
or even just like, for example, like a bag of Doritos,
Oh
you
my
might pay $4 or
gosh.
$5 in the US, and then there you're paying like maybe €2, which is less than $3
Yeah.
here. So there was definitely noticeable differences in stuff being less expensive there.
Yes, there was, yeah, every time we went shopping, those are the things that really stood out to us. Because I mean, a bag of Doritos here, yeah, is easily $5 or $6 at this point. And then we would flip it around and look at the ingredients list, and the ingredients list was a third of the length of what we find here, which, if you've been paying any attention, you know that Europe has already banned half the stuff that we still allow in the US. Um, and so those were things that were really interesting to us, not only the prices, but also the ingredients list, especially of the products that we have here.
Yeah, that was a recurring theme with all the countries that we went to. As far as like, for myself, that does a decent job of watching what I eat on a regular basis. And also, I've noticed as I've gotten older, I tend to be a little bit more sensitive to certain types of foods.
Mhm.
Where, for example, like I don't eat a ton of bread I don't eat a ton of bread here in the US
No.
because it just does not agree with my system. But over there, I had
You
no
were
issues,
eating
like 0
pastries. Yeah.
issues. Whereas, like, I eat like a piece of bread here and I feel bloated as like I ate the entire loaf.
Mhm.
None of that was occurring over there. And it just goes to show like the stuff that they're putting in their food is so much better than what we put in our food here.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that we are considering moving is just basic health, right? Like here, if you're buying organic, you're working out, you have a gym membership, you're doing all the things, it's going to get you maybe 70% of the way there of just regular living in Europe without having to, like, monitor every ingredient and everything that you're putting in your body. And I just am in general, like, I have some chronic things and I have inflammation. And the day that we got back, you ate just, a
Chick-fil-A.
well, obviously that's terrible. And then you had like a granola bar and you
No,
felt
I
so
think it was the
sick.
Chick-fil-A. The Chick-fil-A just
Well, after a month of like not having that kind of
yeah,
stuff
like,
in
I
our body.
immediately felt the difference in, like, as someone who works out on a regular basis, this entire trip, we were there for, like, probably 26, 27 days. I worked out once the entire time I was there.
But we were walking
Yeah, we
like
were
17,000 steps
yeah,
a day,
we probably averaged through the 3,
6
to the 4
miles a day.
4 countries, 14, 15,000 steps a day
Yeah, it was
on
a lot.
average, and I only worked out once, and I was not tracking what I
No.
was eating at all, like, as far as making sure that, like, I'm limiting my calories, none of that. I didn't do any of that I normally do
Well, and
here.
we were drinking like Aperol spritzes and
Yeah,
having beers in Germany and like a
and
gelato every day.
when I came back, I was a half a pound lighter.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't do any of the stuff that I do here as far as working out or, quote unquote, eating healthier. And I lost a little bit of weight being there. Just goes to show
Yeah.
you the
And that was in
difference.
just 20 something days.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that is one of the considerations of just basic living. I do think gets you automatically to a healthier state. And then, the fact that you can walk everywhere. We use public transit. We didn't rent a car at all on our trip. We wanted to be integrated in community. We wanted to show the kids how other people live in other places. And honestly, the public transit was so easy to navigate. It was very affordable. It was very reliable, and I would say all of the countries we went
Yeah.
to, and I'm glad that we did that.
Yeah.
So
You know me, I hate to drive. If I don't have to
yes.
drive ever again in my life, I would be fine.
Well, and we did a ton of walking. So our Airbnb in Barcelona, I have it written down, was $2,446. In total, all of the Airbnbs across the 4 countries was $7,950. We ended up splitting part of that with Brandon's mom, so she paid her share. So we basically cut it into a third. So our portion across all 4 Airbnbs was $5,300. Barcelona was 2,446, and I thought it was good value. We were 20 minutes walking distance from Sagrada Familia. We were, 5 minutes from the bus station, 5 minutes from the subway.
You
We
probably tell
had
them what Sagrada Familia is in case they don't know.
Sagrada Familia is one of the
'Cause I didn't know
largest
beforehand.
churches in the world, and
It's beautiful.
it is by Antoni Gaudi. So if you've ever heard of Gaudi being really big in Barcelona, he was an architect that has created lots of buildings and parks and things like that. And Pope Leo actually came to Barcelona like 2 days after we got there. We did Sagrada Familia the day we arrived. That was not part of the plan. Of course, we were tired. The kids were
It
exhausted.
was hard to get tickets. That was the only time we could get
It
tickets
was it
out.
was super hard to get tickets, and I had been stalking them, and finally when the website opened, that was the only day available. It worked out, it's fine. I think at the end of the day, like, our daughter, especially after traveling, was so exhausted, she didn't fully enjoy the experience, but I think looking back, she was like, "Wow, it was really beautiful."
And the thing is too is like we're not, religious people, but like the church itself is just
It's
beautiful. I highly
stunning.
recommend anyone that goes to Barcelona doing that tour.
Yes, it is. I mean, you walk up, and I remember our son vividly being like, "Whoa, I didn't know it was gonna be this big," because I
Yeah.
told him it's one of the largest churches in the world. But what does that mean to a 6-year-old? What does that mean to somebody who hasn't seen cathedrals all over the world,
Yeah.
So it was really gorgeous. We ended up going up to one of the towers. We did the Nativity Tower, and then we walked down. Not my favorite part. My legs were like shaking at the end because it's like, you're going down this curvy, windy stairwell. The
Yeah, think
stairs
like
are
an old
not.
castle, this little tiny winding, not made for larger people at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and like the steps are not necessarily like the same size, the same width, the same height
no.
distance. Like,
I just
so
kept thinking like the people who like frequented this, like how tiny they had to have been. Because
to
like
like be going up and down.
I was basically the width of the entire like
Yeah.
thing.
It was beautiful. I'm glad that we did it. Highly recommend. And our Airbnb was only 20 minutes away. We also did the Montjuic. I'm sure I'm messing that up, but we did the cable car tour. So it's another castle in the area. We did not go into the castle, but we kind of walked around the grounds. The area is really nice. You kind of get a
You see over the
you
coast.
can see over the coast. It's actually very close to where all of the cruise ships, like the port where the cruise ships come in. And then we had a really nice lunch overlooking one of their public pools. So I would recommend the cable car. It was not super expensive, and the kids really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
They really liked being able to just see from up high. We also went to Parkway, which is spelled Guell. So Park Ghoul is what it looks like, but apparently the pronunciation is Parkway. And that's another Gaudi
Designed.
designed park. It is absolutely gorgeous. Highly recommend. I mean, you could have walked around there all day.
Yeah.
It was very
It's very
hot.
yes.
Go in the morning.
Well, we happened to be this trip. We were expecting, completely different temperatures than what we got. We ended up going during
The
record
heat wave.
heat highs.
Yes. Yeah, we packed for because when we left, it was supposed to be like brisk in the morning, warmer temperatures during the day, and then back to brisk in the evening, which we were so excited about, especially leaving North Carolina in the summer. And no, that's
No,
not what we got. We got
parts of our
hot,
trip we were
hotter, and
yeah,
hottest.
parts of our trip it was like 100 degrees outside.
Oh my gosh. It was pretty brutal. It was pretty brutal. And the difference there is, of course, like, yes, our Airbnbs had air conditioning, but like you can be sitting in a restaurant that has no AC and no ceiling
Yeah, that's
fans.
what I said to Jess. I was like,
It's
"What is wrong with
hard.
your people? Like, they don't have air conditioning, okay, but do they not believe in airflow either?"
Yeah, like no ceiling fans. And then I will say, real air conditioning, I definitely missed. And then also just like big cups of ice and coffee. Like I wanted a big coffee, like a big
Yeah,
iced
I think the biggest
coffee.
coffee we got was like maybe like
I don't know, 10 ounces at
I
most.
don't maybe
Probably not even.
probably like 8.
Yeah. And you're just like, great, I need 6 of these. So there are obviously some cultural differences that you just have to adjust to. But out of
I
all the
actually was fine with
things,
it after like, after a few days, I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm fine."
I missed my ice. I mean, we had ice cubes
Yes,
in
the
the
ice, but the amount of
Airbnbs.
coffee I'd probably drink is excessive.
Yeah, we are excessive coffee drinkers. So, but you have to adjust. It's okay. So Parkway, absolutely recommend. Very, very stunning. Go in the morning, bring your water bottles, bring your fan. But really just to see what Antoni Gaudi envisioned and brought to life is really miraculous, it feels like. I mean, there's these structures that are carved out of stone, and the tile work and the botanical and tropical plants are just absolutely beautiful.
And what was the other place that we went to that he designed that
The
lit
Predrera Casamila.
Yes. I'm so
We
like
did not learn Spanish.
I'm a museum nerd in the sense that for almost a lot of things I might not be interested in them, but I'm interested in the history of them. And
Hmm.
so like finding out more information about him and how, from a mathematical standpoint, with the architecture, how he created things was really cool.
Yes, there's a lot of just really cool design. So Predrera Casamila is, if you've ever seen, it's like a wavy house.
Yeah.
It was like inspired by the elements. So a lot of inspiration from water and air and the woods and things like that. And so you can see that in the design inside and outside, but it's like a wavy house on the outside. And it was really beautiful on the inside. It had these courtyards.
It was like a large, like a condo, like essentially that,
Yes.
apartment, not an apartment, a condo complex.
Yeah. It was really beautiful. So definitely would recommend that as well. Then we did like a sunset sail on the water and then kind of played on the beach for a little bit afterwards, which was really lovely.
Now, the water at that time was not what we're
It was
used
not
to. It's
warm.
not warm, but the beach was beautiful.
Yes, it was beautiful. And it didn't get dark until like almost 10 o'clock every night.
Yes, that
And
that throws you off when you're used to it getting dark at a certain time, and then like you look at your watch and like, oh my god, it's 9:30, and
you're like, oh, we should be in bed. No wonder we're tired. But like listen, things would start getting popping at 9. Like, that whole siesta culture
Yes,
of
is real.
it is real. So, like, we typically would eat dinner 5:30, 6 o'clock, because again, we have our routine. The kids need to
Yeah,
go to
restaurants
bed.
didn't pick up until like 8:39.
Listen, if you were going to a restaurant at 7, you would have the restaurant to yourself.
Yeah.
If they were open. But then when you were leaving at 9 o'clock at night, that's when it was popping.
Yeah.
So absolutely, like, they do late dinners. It felt very it felt like there was community all around you.
Because you were always seeing
You were
people.
always seeing people. And like that's big in Europe, I think too. But
I mean, you
it
also kind
was
of get that
really
in
nice
large cities in
in
the
large cities.
US.
Yeah. But that cafe culture that's big in Europe. I mean, huge in France and in Paris, obviously, but it was also in Barcelona, and I really liked it. We also spent an afternoon shopping after we did the La Pedrera Casa Mila at Las Ramblas, which is like the famous kind of strip of high-end stores and shopping and restaurants, and that was really nice as well. It's like tree-lined streets and beautiful houses with shopping underneath and just really beautiful. Like, I could live in Barcelona.
Kind of like also a call out about like, getting tickets for the various things that we had to get tickets for to go see. It is very affordable in comparison to what I think when you're in the US trying to see different sites and getting tickets.
Yes.
It's very like they seem like I think they very consciously make it affordable for people to see because on purpose. Like it's very
Yeah.
conscious. It's very
They want
intentional.
you to be a part of it. They
Yeah.
want the community to be there. Everything that we booked felt very reasonable, especially for what we got.
Yeah.
For the experience and how beautiful everything was. It was very, very affordable. Most of these places had like audio guides. We didn't do them everywhere, but we did. We did do them like at the La Pedrera Casa Mila, which you have to listen in order to really understand what's going on. There's a whole rooftop experience with different stone structures and things that was again very beautiful, and you want to learn about how that design came to be and what it represents, and I think that was very helpful. The other thing that we ended up doing a little last minute was we went to the FC Barcelona museum and stadium. We didn't do a stadium tour, but we did do the
Yeah, because the stadium tour, this is the one part that was expensive. The stadium tour was significantly more per person to just go in and look. And I was like, I don't think it's worth it. Like,
yeah, it was like what, $90 a
it would have been,
person?
I think it would have been like an additional 80 euros. So it was also 90.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I'm like, just to look.
Well, and I even said, I was like, well, if you and Roman want to go do that, like, go do that. But that wasn't for me and our daughter, and I don't think your mom would have cared. So
No.
that would have not been money well spent. But we just didn't do it. I think the museum in and of itself was very well done.
Yeah. And just like, obviously, and if you're new to the podcast, I grew up playing soccer. It's my favorite sport. And then our son's starting to get into it. So it was a little surprise. We didn't tell him until we were getting ready to go, till we showed up basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little surprise for him. But like just to be able to see the difference in how that sport is viewed abroad as compared to here in the US, like was something I wanted him to experience because I was able to experience that as a young age, traveling overseas to play soccer.
Yeah. And that one was a little bit more expensive than some of the other things that we did.
That's probably like the most expensive
But
one.
I think it was very well done. And if you are a soccer or a sports fan, I think it's worth going.
Yeah, especially, because for those that don't know, Messi spent a good portion of his career at FC Barcelona. So they have a whole thing to, dedicated to him going in there and seeing all the trophies and stuff like that. So that was really cool.
Yeah. No, I think overall, Barcelona was beautiful. The people were really nice. We obviously do not speak Spanish yet. It is on my kind of, no, I don't want to call it a to-do list. It's on my bucket list of things that I would like to do.
I would only do it probably if we moved
If
there.
we moved. I think so. One call out is that in Barcelona, there's a dialect or language called Catalan, which is what they actually speak. So I'm not saying that if you speak Spanish, you won't be able to communicate because people learn Catalan like as part of their schooling. But as non-Spanish speakers, we got around just fine.
Yeah. And one thing, like one of the reasons that we're looking at, potentially moving abroad is there's just certain things in the US that we don't agree with the trajectory of where they're going. And one thing that I liked when I was in Barcelona and also just the other countries as well when you're there, they assume you live there.
Oh, yeah, they would
Like,
assume that we are
they assume that that we
from
are residents of
Barcelona or
Spain.
s yeah,
They come up to us and start speaking in Spanish. No question of like, do you belong here? Nothing of that
right, right.
nature. And that was in every country. Whatever country we were in, even like, in the Netherlands where it's, more predominantly, more predominantly white, I would say, like in the Netherlands.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, just
Yeah.
come up to you,
Well,
speak
we went to
Dutch.
Amsterdam, which
Amsterdam.
is pretty
Yeah.
melting pot-ish.
But like they assume you speak the language. So like I like that aspect of them assuming that we quote unquote already belong.
Right. Yeah, that is nice.
Yes.
I think too, one
You
of
feel safer.
yeah, you do. I think there I think part of what I really liked too is you would just be walking around and we would find a park and we would just let the kids play. Or there was one place right behind our Airbnb where you could have lunch and there was a park. So the kids played on the playground while we had lunch. And it just felt like you could walk around the corner and have your needs met. And you didn't need a car. You didn't have to sit in traffic. Like, I just really liked that. And if anybody wants any of the Airbnb links that we stayed in, let us
Yeah, they
know.
were all great and the hosts were great.
We would stay there again. The hosts were great, super responsive, nice and clean, great areas. But I think too, especially in Barcelona, we had 2 grocery stores right across the street. We had a bakery across the street. I mean, we literally had exactly what we needed within, 30 steps outside of our front door. And I just thought that was so
Yeah,
nice.
because like the one time that I worked out was when we were in Barcelona because there was gyms that were just really close, and I would remember like the one day I went up, got up early in the morning, went to the gym on my walk to the gym. On my way back, walk and grab some pastries and coffee for us, and I was like, I could do this.
I could
I
do
like
this.
I
It was
literally like
so
had a moment where I'm
nice.
like, I could do this where this is be my regular routine.
Yeah, I just thought it was great, and the kids loved it. And I will say, when we got back, my son and our son and I were walking the dog, and it's like he had this realization, and he was like, "Nobody's outside." And it just felt lonely. Like, we live in a neighborhood, there's hundreds of houses, and there are literally days where you don't see a soul.
I think that's part of the problem. Like most
No
people,
wonder people are
yeah,
lonely.
by nature, we're not meant to be by ourselves. So I think
No.
when you are, forced to be in common areas with people that are different from you, you start to
Mhm.
understand each other more, and it just overall has a positive outcome.
Yeah. Well, you feel like you're instantly part of a community.
Yeah,
Even if it's like, I don't know this person next to me, but like seeing people is impactful,
yeah,
So, yeah, I definitely had a lot of those moments where I'm like, man, like after dinner, you could just like walk and get a gelato or just, I don't know, and not being beholden to a car, not being beholden to like just all the things that we have here.
yeah,
I just think is something that we're really thinking about right now,
yeah.
So, did you have a favorite part in Barcelona? Like something that we did? Like, what was your favorite if you had to name
I
something?
mean,
FC Barcelona.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
I mean, because like I said, like you don't see it on that caliber here in the U.S. So like the last time that I went to a stadium that would be anywhere near those was when I was in high school.
Mhm.
I was fortunate that when I was in high school, went to the Netherlands, was able to go see Ajax's stadium and stuff like that. And also when I was in high school, I got to see Old Trafford where Manchester United plays and stuff like that. But
Yep.
like just being able to see that, I enjoy those things. And part of me is also like, our son's really getting into soccer.
Yeah, he
Would love to
is.
get him into the youth program over there because it is significantly better. Yeah, I have a little, bias there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the wheels are definitely turning, and talking about community. Obviously, like we have a great community of friends here that we cherish and we value.
But we're also so spread apart.
We're so spread apart, and then even then, you think about how often do we see each other?
Yeah.
And we have friends that love to travel. So in my head, I'm like, we'd probably see them the same amount. Be like, we would have a guest room, like just come to Barcelona, and
Might
you
even
know,
technically might see them more because like when we see them now, like if we see them maybe 2 or 3 times a year, we see them for a day or a few
right? Yeah,
hours.
yeah.
That's where if they came to visit us, they'd probably be there for like a week.
Right, right. I don't know. You don't want to. This is not us saying like, oh, if we moved to Europe, everything would be better. Like, I
No,
think that it would be hard and there would be adjustments. And yes, we would
there's pros and
miss
cons to everything.
our community. But in my head, I'm like, we can always come back. And for our children, the transition would be easiest when they're younger.
Yeah.
Them learning another language would be easiest when they're younger. And so those are just things that we're considering.
I also think there is something so important in getting outside of your little bubble, especially in the United States.
Yes.
I think it's very easy to tell an adult that you come across that has not experienced other cultures.
Yeah, and I think that's one of our like core values as a family is we want our kids to know that there's a great big world out there and that they are not the center of the universe and that other people's ideas and way of living matter and it just helps you understand from an early age that things are different in different
Yeah, you're
places.
more open-minded, you're more accepting of something that's different from your
Yeah,
norm.
it changes your brain. It just totally changes how you operate as a person. And the more we can do that for our kids, I think the better.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So we left from Barcelona and we went to Paris. So we are going to tell you all about Paris in our next episode. Stay tuned.
Sugar Daddy Podcast, yo. Learn how to make them pockets grow. Financial freedom's where we go.